Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner University podcast. I am your host, Paul O'Need, and today I am joined by a very, very special guest. This is oh my God, messed up the introduction already. Josh Sutchar. Josh, if you're not familiar with Josh, it's because he's behind the scenes. He is one of the founders of TrainHeroic, and if you are living under a rock, you probably haven't heard of TrainHeroic, but Josh, welcome to the podcast, man. It's very special to have you here. Meeting you at Summer Strong was amazing, and I felt like we connected quite well on a lot of different levels. And for you to give up your time is very generous of you. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. You were one of the highlights of Summer Strong. For me, it's always about the people, but just like running into you. I was just at a conference right before Summer Strong, not right before, but with Parisi Speed School, right? And Coop was talking there. Coop from Two Brains.
Okay.
And in Coop's talk, he had talked about growing his gym and how he did it. And he said, "What does everybody like here?" And people kind of looked around confused, like coffee. All of you love coffee. Everybody loves coffee. Said so to build his gym, he would just go around town every morning, one place, one business. He'd walk in with 4 coffees with like cream and sugar on the side. Hey, my name's Coop. I own a gym. It's right down the street. Do you guys drink coffee? Cool. If anybody is looking for a space to train, whatever, and kind of he gave his elevator pitch. And so right before Summer Strong, I kind of thought that, right? And so when Tex and I were driving to get coffee, I was like, let's just grab 4 extra coffees. So just, for some background, pulled into our parking spot. You pulled randomly behind us with, 600 people there, with just totally random. Right. And we're like, yo, Paul, you want a coffee?
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up connecting. So shout out to Coop for that.
That was, and I mean, we just got to talking. One of the things that struck me as just not interesting, but it was just how genuine you were in the exchange. Like, you and I had never met before. We had no connection whatsoever. And you just started asking me about who I was. And very rarely am I put in positions where I'm kind of taken aback that someone is showing a general interest in who I am and what I do, because I find most of those conversations are transactional in nature. So you immediately got my guard down. And then I found out who you were. And then I was like, oh, well, that's even more surprising. So maybe tell the audience a little bit, like, what's your story, man? Like, how did you get to where you are today?
Well, there's like a business side and a personal side, right? So I'll like start with the business stuff, right? We founded TrainHeroic 15 years ago. 2011 really is when it started. I think 2012 is when the business started officially. But I was best friends with this guy Ben Crookston, and he's I tell people, like, I was just on the team. Ben was the brains behind everything that we did, and Ben came to me with this business idea that was TrainHeroic, and I didn't know a whole lot about tech, almost nothing about tech, and I love training, right? But bringing the two ideas together, I was mostly on board because I loved and believed in Ben. And I was like, anything this dude's going to do is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And over the 15 years, I've just kind of developed a love and a passion for the industry. I didn't really know what the industry was at the time, frankly. I knew what training looked like from the athlete's perspective. I saw it at a high level just through playing college football, and we wanted to deliver that, to the world. So I've just been, I tell the story, like, personally, I've just been really lucky for 37 years.
It's a long time.
Yeah. The family I was born into, my parents, my brothers, sisters, like all these, just the journey that I've been on to like linking up with Ben, which is totally random. Like, I was enrolled to go to West Point, and there was the only school in the country that would give me a scholarship, but I had to go play at their prep school for a year because my grades weren't good enough. And they only get like so many slots for people whose grades weren't good enough. And I wasn't good enough to get one of those slots. So I was going to like play at a prep school. Anyways, this is 2005 when I was graduating high school, and we were like, the U.S. is going to war with Iraq.
Right.
And like anybody that knows me, like, I don't have that. I just don't have that in me. But I was going to do it because we were poor, and going to school for free was intriguing to me, And so I was gonna do that. Anyways, Jim Harbaugh was the coach at the University of San Diego at the time, and he had got a hold of my film because my dad kind of randomly sent it in. And he called me. He was like, hey, I remember, hey, Josh, you like to hit people. I was a fullback, And I was like, thinking back to the question, I was like, yeah, I do. He's like, and he asked me to come visit. I fell in love with the school, fell in love with him and the culture. And anyways, the rest is history. That's where I met Ben and how this whole thing collided. So when I say, this whole thing has been really lucky, like even in starting the business and bringing tech into training, for us, it was a novel idea. Like I was knocking on high school football coaches' doors, telling them about TrainHeroic and why I thought it could change the game. And like they kind of laughed at us because you wouldn't bring tech into that environment,
Yep.
And again, in terms of like luck, just the worlds of technology, of training, of fitness, they all kind of collided, and we got really lucky to be at the right place at the right time. So that's,
That
anyways, from a professional standpoint, that's like the beginning of the beginning, at least.
um I want to get into the personal side of things after we get into the business, because that's one area where you and I resonated quite well. But let's touch on the bringing tech into the weight room, because I'll be completely honest. So I come from a college strength and conditioning background. I hated tech in the weight room.
Totally.
So that must have been a huge barrier for you guys to overcome, especially 15 years ago. Like I remember when I first started taking online clients around that time. Dude, I was using email and Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't refined like it is today. How did you even begin to have those conversations 15 years ago?
Well, so there's so much nuance to all of this, right? Like even you're prepping for a show, like the nuance in bodybuilding, right,
Right.
is so different than the nuance in powerlifting or other sports that you've been in. And there's so much nuance even in tech and training, right? And you have this environment that's in facility, right? So when you come from like a team space, tech and training, like this thing is a distraction.
For sure.
Technology is a distraction. And in our world, like we were there was a piece of paper posted to the rack, and you'd find your name, your weights
Yep.
for that, right? And you do it, and there was nothing to do but be there. And I can love and appreciate that. And so for us, actually, the tech side of it, the tech was just a necessary evil. All we wanted to do was deliver our strength coach, this guy Shannon Turley, who was like a world-class strength coach. We wanted to deliver him to the world, and tech was
Hmm.
how we were going to do it, because it was 2009 at the time, and everybody had an app, and like
Right.
we thought that was just the path. So there, in the in-facility environment, I think tech can represent chaos and disorganization. So it's a different. I think people have a different relationship. So to be really good in that space, you're talking iPads on racks, and nobody's got their kind of personal devices. That's probably what excellent looks like in those
Yeah.
team environments. Where in your world, in the private world, like tech is part of it. So like it's almost like jujitsu. It's like you're dancing if you're using the tech. If you're fighting the tech because you want them to have a sheet of papers, like they're also going to have their phone in their hand. And
Hmm.
our opportunity is to turn that thing into a tool. So I think again, a lot of it is just timing and everybody's acceptance of like, this is the world that we're in. How can we turn this? I tell coaches all the time, turn that distraction into a tool. Like we could be a tool in the hand of an athlete. They're not scrolling Instagram anymore. They're looking at your training, and they can hear it. They can hear it. But some people have to see it before they do it.
So as you were talking, one thing that struck me as interesting is I asked you like how you solved a problem, and you presented me both sides of the argument. You steel manned both sides of the argument, why it could be beneficial or why it could take away.
Yeah.
And but to me, that speaks to the true mark of a professional, right? You're not going to try and sell me on something I don't need. You're also not going to sell me on a false bill of goods that you can deliver on something that may not be appropriate for what I need in that situation. And I hope people who are listening like see that nuance in the way that you're speaking, because I think it's a really important lesson that they can learn and that they can take away. Um, One of the things that Train Heroic, like obviously Train Heroic started as a coaching app, but it's grown into something that I don't even think I might be totally mistaken, but you probably didn't look at it as eventually this is going to be a marketplace, and eventually this is going to have probably tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of coaches
Mhm.
selling their stuff on our platform. How did that evolution take place?
It's always been about solving problems, right? And so
Okay.
the problem that we had in our head, again, just going back to day one, was like people don't know how to train to be football players. This was like our initial like niche, right? Like they just don't know how to do that. So let's use tech and let's package the best training in the world, in our understanding of the world today, for high school football players, and let's go talk to sport coaches. So that's the problem that we were solving. Then we got out into the world, and again, this whole string of luck that kind of was the wind at our back the whole while, pushed us to the Navy SEALs. We're like one of the first customers out in Coronado, California.
Oh wow.
And when we
Okay.
brought our tech to them, they said, "This tech is awesome. We need it. We don't give a shit about your training,
Mhm.
but we want the tech." So the problem we were solving for them is like they didn't need content. they needed technology to package their content, right? And so we really quickly started to solve that problem, which changed the market. So it was like, okay, then we were at like UCLA, same thing. They just wanted our tech, right? And so we really changed how we were doing, what we were doing, and what our place was in that world. And then it was like, okay, Ben and I, neither of us were technologists. Like, we got to build the team of people that know how to do this. Then when we got into the market, we thought kind of the pinnacle for us was like, I always kind of use the example of like Ohio State on your t-shirt, best football program in the world. That person, that strength coach, they have to be balling. They have to be killing it. They have to be so happy, right? And what we found, and this isn't a specific example with Ohio State, I'm making that up, but even at the best of the best with the logos on their shirts, these guys were overworked and underpaid. Mm-hmm. And it was the head guy that maybe was like the least underpaid, but I think they were all feeling that. And so what we realized is like, hey, our opportunity is actually to take this technology and help create freedom and flexibility to the person using it, because they have so much value to deliver the world. We aren't going to be the one to tell them exactly how to do it, but like, let's just give them the vehicle to do it. And that's where the marketplace concept was kind of born out of, was just solving a different problem for the same person.
So you guys are very much like agile with your project management. You're like, okay, let's launch minimum viable product, see where it goes. You take the feedback from the people that you're trying to sell to, iterate. And I'm sure that just hasn't stopped. At what point, like, you and your business partner are you guys still business partners? Like, is this still the same ownership group?
It's not. And Ben just left the business like about a year ago.
Okay.
And we're best friends. I'll go have lunch with him every week or get a training session with him. It was just kind of time for him to do his next thing. He's a Ben's a special dude. He needs to be creating stuff all the time. And over time we merged with another company. There's a parent company. It's a much bigger organization. We have an office space. If I flip the camera around, built for 300 people, and it's just a different beast now. Yeah. There's several companies in it. So TrainHeroic's one of the companies
that is
within the brand.
So cool. Where I was going with that was, neither one of you are technologists. Like, neither one of you are coders.
Yep.
How did you go about securing the like, obviously you have the intellectual property, but that's useless unless you have the ability to build a product. So how do you, maybe there's some coach out there who wants to build an app, which I've done it. Don't do it unless you have very deep pockets to begin with. But how did you go about like starting to build out the team behind the scenes?
We wasted a lot of money and a lot of time. That's the reality.
Amen to that.
It wasn't linear, Paul. Like, none of this was linear. And frankly, like, we were two young dudes, and still are. I wouldn't say that knew nothing, but like we just didn't know what we didn't know. And frankly, that was like also our strength, is that we could get on. Like, at this point, would I start another tech company as a 25-year-old if I had the chance to do it? No, I wouldn't. Because it's really hard, and you don't have the capacity to do some of the things that you need to do. So you're really reliant on other people. And it wasn't until we brought in technologists that had as much skin in the game as we, who were waking up with, before I was dead, I always say, this is my baby, who would wake up with the baby and when the baby was crying and do the thing. Like, that wasn't the case in the early days. So it was tough. Like, we definitely had a vision. We knew what we wanted, but most of our pain was that we, first of all, didn't know what it took to build tech, and our expectations were wildly off base. And so it just was a learning experience. And again, even 15 years in it, to your point, like, there's still so much to learn. That world's just so dynamic. When you think you have it figured out, it changes.
Well, and I'm sure the ever dynamic nature of tech within sport has influenced perhaps the ideas that are brought across your desk. Yeah. I mean, when you talk about the integration of all the wearable electronics, different testing metrics, I feel like you guys have said no to probably more things than you've said yes to. How do you decide what you say yes to and what you say no to?
Yeah, that's I think, in the earlier days, we didn't know who are in tech, in business. There's this thing called product market fit, right? So you're like, who am I perfect for? And you'll hear it in training, like, who's my avatar? Who am I training, right? And again, it's like, you're not training a person. You're training a woman between 40 and 50, and that's your niche, right? Who has this background, right? And so for us, it was just about getting really specific with who we want to serve. And it wasn't until we use the acronym ICP, our ideal customer profile, until
Mm-hmm.
we know exactly who it is we're wanting to serve. That then is so clarifying around like what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to. As an example, like for us, there's this idea of like somebody, a coach. Sure, we're serving a coach, right? And you're like, wait, what? A trainer? Yeah, a trainer who would think of themselves as a coach. Okay, and there's
Mm-hmm.
some difference that like somebody that's like focused on performance that matters. That's programming in a structured way, right? So like I say, like we're for people who are getting ready, not getting sweaty. And don't get me wrong, we have people that do not hit the bullseye that love TrainHeroic, but we're not building a product specifically for them. And there's this idea of like they need to be commercially incentivized. Uh, a good amount of they have to have they have to prioritize remote training. So
Mm-hmm.
many coaches use TrainHeroic in person with their customers,
Right.
and it's much more valuable of it. The tool has more role to play when they're not with their customers, when they're not with their clients. They're still going to use it with them, but that's like the bullseye for us. Again, you're not going to always hit the bullseye, and you're still going to make people happy. But the people that are here for 10 years, like they're in the middle of that target. And then the coach who comes to us who's like, "Yo, I want to integrate velocity based training with Train Heroic." Or maybe a better example is like, I'm using this big CRM and we want to integrate Train Heroic with the CRM, right? And
Mm-hmm.
granted, yes, we need to do all these things for sure. But when you talk about like prioritizing, you're like, how does that impact the bullseye customer? And you kind of work from there. So it's always a game of prioritization in that way.
So you put that ICP above everything else, sorry, and you kind of just, does this serve this person? If not, then it's a no. Or maybe it's a not right now. And then you
Yeah,
kind of
are we
decide
serving
later.
that person perfectly? Because if not, let's go start there before we start, kind of at the next ring, if you will.
Right. Because at this point, you're managing budget and you don't want to spend money on something that's not going to have a net ROI for you, especially when it comes to developing new tech to integrate into yours.
Yeah, it even, yes. And it's even less so about budget and more so about like, let's go finish the mission before we just start a bunch of fires. Like we haven't put this one out. Like it's funny. I'll talk to people. I was at this conference and you're just getting like, people don't want to tell you what they don't like, but they're like, yo, you're great. And people are kind of singing our praise. Yo, I love it. It's the best tech I've used. My athletes love this. Like the experience is amazing. I'm like, yeah, but what are we not doing for you that we need to do?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and there's a
Uh,
lot. There's so much that we need to do for our customers that we need to deliver first before we kind of go to the next ring, if you will.
Before we jump into that, you mentioned the ICP. So within the journey that you kind of described initially, that ICP has changed.
Yes.
Is it still changing, or are you pretty much set on like this is the person at this point?
I think it'll always evolve, but I see at least for the next several years that like that job to be done, right? Of like, hey, you're truly training, you're training an athlete, a client remotely. You need to track their progress. Like, we're going to focus on that probably for the next few years, I'd say, before there's somebody else. They're like, yo, let's go and serve that customer.
Well, because if you're trying to be all things for all people, you end up being nothing for anyone.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Um, so the concept of finishing the mission, do you think the mission will ever be done?
I think the mission yes, I think the mission, this is my perspective at least. I feel like the vision is something you're always chasing, right?
Mhm.
Where we're at right now, I think like there's a mission, you can achieve the mission, but you're always going to have another one to go
Yeah.
after. So I think you're always going to be, pursuing a mission. Yeah.
Does that ever get to be overwhelming?
Um, my gut reaction to that was no, but only because I'm having fun doing it. Like I'm not going to get to a place where it's like if this whole building burned down and technology didn't exist tomorrow, I'd be like, yo, that was fun. That was awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, like we had an impact. We did a thing both inside this building, on the people that we're working with, their families. Like it's just a fun journey. And then again, you get out in the world and you're like, people like our shit, and we love working with them, right? And again, like, dude, everything is temporary, right, Paul? Like you and I won't be here forever, but like
Oh no.
let's,
Yeah.
let's have fun while we're doing it. So that part, I think, makes it less overwhelming. I don't need to get to the end to justify the means, if you will. Yeah.
It's hearing you say that is really, really cool for me because I have these thoughts all the time of like, when am I done? Like I'm almost 40, which is, relatively young in the scope of a human being. But in terms of a coach, I don't know many 50, 60, 70-year-old coaches.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm getting close to that. Like, how do I finish my mission? And that's iterated over time from coaching clients on a gym floor to coaching teams to coaching individuals, now coaching coaches. So I've more so kind of widened my net of
Yeah.
impact. I see that actually being mirrored with Train Heroic in that you started with facilitating other coaches offering their programs. Then you facilitated the teams. And then you also facilitate a marketplace. We probably should have started with this, but can you give a rundown of like, what is the service offering of Train Heroic as it is today?
Coaches sign up. Our right now, like, our mission is coach focused, right? So
Okay.
I'm going to focus on that side of it. There's a consumer side of this, but mostly our coaches service the consumers. We'll have offerings for them, but where we are right now, it's like our mission is to work with the best coaches in the world and be a tool for every coach that fits our ICP of, if you will, right? And so the service, go on, Paul.
No, I was just gonna ask you to elaborate a little bit into the specifics.
Yeah. So like the language I use here is like a coach, a commercially incentivized coach that's training athletes remotely. If they're
So if
doing
I
that.
wanted to, if I wanted to have a program available that people can sign on and follow, we could do that. If I wanted to have a group of people following the same program that I interact with, we could do that. And then you also have a marketplace where if I'm a consumer, I can sign on and pick and choose between different products and services from many different people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say like, so like the general like service for our coaches, you'll sign up, we give you 2 weeks free. We support it like you're a customer. We'll treat you like a customer from the day that you're not paying us, right? To make sure that it's a fit.
Of
I
course.
think like uh, in any of these services, right? Any training's no different. It's like you're not making money if you're not delivering long term. Like so, getting
Hmm.
somebody to like say yes for a month, like that's a bad situation for everybody. It's bad for the
Yeah.
coach. They're pressed for time, right? So you want to make sure you're delivering something that is valuable that they can use to grow and scale their business, make the impact they want. But when they start a trial, they'll get access to everything. And basically, coaches generally they start in a library where they're building programs. And the way
Okay.
that we've always perceived that is like our competition is not the other tech; it's Microsoft Excel. Like they're using Excel today. Like be better than
Yeah.
Excel. Be Excel for coaches, right? So
It's a
we
low
let
bar.
coaches jump in there and we let them
It's a,
build their, what's that?
sorry. I was like, that's a pretty low bar to shoot for, but okay.
It's what the whole world was doing at the time, where it's
Oh,
like,
dude, 100%.
and Excel does some awesome things. Like, first of all, it never breaks. It's very flexible. It can be whatever you want it to be, And so those are some principles that we kind of pulled from that. But basically, a coach gets a library, and that is their content. Within their library, they have programs and they also have exercises. And we've created like 2,000 exercises, so it's dangerous on day one. But many coaches take our library out. You can click a button to remove ours, and it's all their own kind of branded stuff, right? But typically, the biggest use case is like they'll use our stuff and their own. They'll add in
Mhm.
their own, whether it's their own nomenclature or whatever. But then they'll build with their exercise library, they'll build programs. They've got some programs in there, and then they'll connect with clients or athletes either one on one or invite them to groups and they'll coach them. And that's true coaching, where it's like, I'm looking at what you're doing through the app, I'm adjusting, copying and pasting, tweaking, right? The athlete side, they're getting everything delivered to them, they're tracking their progress, we're telling them when they hit a PR. And then to your point, Paul, like you always have the option also to take all that content that you've created and sell it. And so I think people think about Train Heroic or they see Train Heroic for the first time because we've got all these amazing coaches who are selling their training. And people will be like, there's this concept called the marketplace, the Train Heroic marketplace. You can go there to find a coach. Most people that actually find training from their coach just find their coach. Like they'll find you on Instagram, they'll click a link. Oh, I can buy your 12-week program. You decide the price. And we have like the best economics in the industry. So it makes a lot of sense relative to competition. Just throw your program on Train Heroic because we're basically making no money on a training program when you sell it. And you can start a monthly subscription too, where you set a price and then you have a community, just like joining an online CrossFit gym. They're kind of all doing the same thing on the same day, but you can have thousands, and we have coaches with thousands of members paying them, $30 a month or whatever you decide to charge for that. So you get control over pricing, and there's some flexibility there.
Yeah, I was first introduced to Train Heroic, I think, probably over maybe 10 years ago. When I first got into the online space, but I was a dinosaur, man. I was like Excel all the way.
Yeah.
And the first person who I ever knew like closely who was using Train Heroic was my wife, because Liv has a Train Heroic community, her Peach Gang programming. And she does really well on it. She uses it as, a lower ticket offering that kind of feeds into or through her one-on-one coaching. And it's a phenomenal tool. But as you're taught, like after meeting you, I can say that my entire view of the company shifted, because for me, I was like, oh, Train Heroic is just some big company. And if I hop on there, it's going to take some of my revenue, whereas I could just do this on my own.
Sure.
But when you hear the founder talking about the mission and you hear the founder's excitement about the product, it kind of made me revisit my entire view of marketing in general, where when people click purchase, they're buying you. They're not buying the service.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, oh, maybe I should start a Train Heroic team. And I was like,
we're waiting for you, Paul. We are waiting for you.
well, here's my issue. My issue is going to feed off of one of yours. Is I think that would take away from me serving the people that I already have to serve. So until that becomes viable, I'm not going to branch into another aspect of coaching. So this is a season of no versus a season of yes. But when marketing, I think it's important. Like you have your mission, but you're also super jazzed and like excited about what you're doing. So showing up to work and chasing that mission, trying to finish the mission, chase the visions, so to speak, it just becomes fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that we chatted about at Summer Strong, and we'll kind of go onto the personal side, was I asked you how you did with managing your family and building like Train Heroic is a big business, man. How do you manage?
I had an awesome wife. That's most of it. It's just it's funny. You'll hear this term balance, and I believe in balance. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one to be like, you shouldn't be balanced. But there are just like seasons where you got to go on one and press on the other, right? Like as an example, I'll have a baby. My wife will have a baby, our third, coming August 5th,
Oh,
and I'm going to take
amazing.
time off work. I will not be here, And we have an awesome team now. Back when, and it was Ben and Josh. That wasn't really feasible, but now it is. And frankly, like I'm the least smart person in this building. Like our people will be better served talking to Tim and Nate. And so there's that where it's like we have a support system to lean on, but it's just about my strategy at least is like you just sort of wake up in the morning, do a little reflection. How is everything going? What needs my attention? What's the most valuable way that I can spend my time today? And you kind of get after it. I've got plenty of energy, Paul. So I think like one advantage I have is like I kind of don't stop. I get my sleep. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's not like I'm up all night doing my thing, but like I'm gonna make sure that the hours in the day get used, right? By the second I get home, like I'm with Nico and Mateo and Silvana, and we're doing our thing. And when I'm here, I'm here. So
you have the ability to compartmentalize.
yeah, and I'm not gonna like my mind goes right. Sometimes I'll
Yeah.
be laying in bed and my wife, what are you thinking about? It's like
Not
I'm thinking
work.
about work stuff. Yeah. And so like, don't get me wrong. Like I can't. I'm not superhuman. I can't just like turn off. But like it's at least like a voice in my own head saying like, "Yo, be here
Mhm.
now." And it ain't easy for sure. It's not.
Have you ever, how do I word this? Have you ever made mistakes or faltered in that regard? Like, how did you come to this place where you could separate?
I'm 37, right? I'll be 38 in July. So a lot of it's just like tough learning. I learned from just making mistakes. I mean,
Yeah.
I just do, right? I've had, how old was I? We got married at 30, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah. So, I had relationships that, or it's like the relationship didn't work, not because we weren't both super into it. It was like, I just had this thing, TrainHeroic, there was no balance at all. It was like, hey, you want to go out? No, no, not, no, I can't tonight. And like, so you'll get the wrong message on the other side where you're just like, you're so, you're so ingrained and you're so in it. And then on the family side, like I've spent nights at my house where I was like home and wasn't there, where my brain was somewhere else. I'm texting with the coach or something like that. So just like, and then like you kind of sit down, you sit in your bed and you're like, dang, like I missed a rep today, and that ain't
Mm.
that's not a good feeling. So there's just like you feel that pain. You're like, I don't want to go through that pain anymore. So it's like, dude, I have nothing figured out at 37, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
going through that, yeah, I'm definitely conscious of it and getting better.
Well, because you said something earlier on, you said, I felt like this was my baby until I became a dad. How did that shift your perspective?
That's been my experience in life in general. You think you know something until you know something. You're like, oh, I had no idea. And that's been my experience in parenthood. I would always like use this sentiment, like the baby's up and crying, I got to get up. And I was just talking about the business. Something's going wrong, you're staying up and stuff. And then you have kids, and kids aren't for everybody. Uh, but there's a part of me that I could never have known should I not have had my son and the second, and I'm sure with the third.
One thing that I haven't been lucky enough to have a child yet. 2026 hopefully is going to be the year for us. And one of the things that I am perhaps naive in believing, but I want to believe, is that my mission to serve will only be galvanized by the fact that I have children to provide for. While you're saying on one hand that having children allowed you to separate business from your personal life, I'm sure in the same breath, having children has also allowed you to be more driven in your professional life.
For me, yes, and for me, it's changed the way that I've looked at humans in general.
Okay.
There's a certain like there's a way I feel about, and I'll just talk about Nico because it's the first time that it was my first kiss. It's the first time I've realized that. But like I I just started looking at everybody differently. Like to somebody that's Nico, and somebody feels the way I feel about this kid to this person. So let's treat them the way that I want somebody to treat my son. And it's a little bit different even than there's the what's the quote? I do unto others, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, there's a certain way that you want people to treat you, and we're all inherently selfish, and there's something about that. But for me, at least, the experience is so much more profound thinking about my son, and so it just changed just gave kind of another, I don't know, perspective in terms of how I treated other people, coaches, customers, strangers, um, just knowing that.
Yeah. I definitely could see that too. Um, a big part of your business is building relationships with the coaches on the platform. Um, I saw just a snippet of that in our conversation at Summer Strong, where you have this uncanny ability to immediately like get people's guard down. Has that been something that you worked on, or is that just innate? You've always done it, like because I asked the question because me personally, I feel like I have that same impact on people, but there's a lot of people who just don't have that in them.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up so like I grew up in a family of five kids. My mom had five kids in 6 years. Okay, so there was like I think no there was rare that's a rare environment to grow up in, right? So I think
Mhm.
my like the way that I was raised probably had a lot to do with it. Like you had to figure out how to connect with, I don't know, at least your siblings, and then your parents, right? And all these things. So I think like some of it is that um, mostly Paul is I think it's just that I actually give a shit, and I don't know if everybody always does, And so you can have these kind of like perfunctory like bump ins or conversations. It's like, cool, what's your name? Cool, I'm on to the next. I've got like some objective or whatever.
Yep.
Man, I love the business that we're in because I love the people that we work with, and I like give a shit about this industry and the people that are in it. Like I've seen the impact of coaching, of mentors, and those are the force multipliers of the world. And like
Mhm.
I think we can help them. And so that's why I'm just like genuinely interested in the people in that industry. Okay, what's causing you pain? What's going on in your life? Like I believe, as a business, if we can understand those people intimately, if we know all the details, then we can help them. And it's just like a doctor's visit. Like you tell your doctor half the story, it's like it's going to be hard to help you. And I feel like we have to uncover the story. So a lot of just the interactions of me, asking questions or trying to understand is like I want to help, and I know if I don't understand the whole picture, I'm just going to give some bad advice.
Well, I think the fact that you yourself as the founder of this company are showing up and being at the booth, right? Like you could easily send other people.
Yeah, if we're not as big as like I think people have this perception that like the space isn't that big. There's 100 people in the org, and we're serving two products with those 100. So there's just not that many people. My sales team is small. We're a team of like 8. So it's
Bro,
just
did you just say there's 100 people on your team and it's small?
well, but our like the sales team like that I'm directly working with on a
Right.
daily basis. That's picking up the phone, talking to our coaches. It's 8 people. And the 100 is like a lot of this is technologists
Right.
building tech, right? You have a data team and a design team and a marketing team. So the customer facing side is smaller than it could be.
How has it been you transitioning from, boots on the ground to being in more of a leadership role? Like what are some lessons that you've learned along the way or growing pains?
Hiring, hiring is all about hiring, right? Like this thing is all
Oh,
about people. The same way that, right? Even just like our interactions at Summer Strong, it's like, well, why do you care? Like I care about the people we
mhm.
work with, and then importantly, the people that are here. And I always am like learning a lot about hiring. But you bring in somebody awesome, like a mentor here in the office had said this to me. It's just like if an employee makes your job easier, or a great employee should make your job easier. If like you're managing the heck out of this person and it's just like whatever, there's a lot of friction. Like that's just a sign that they ain't just they're just not the right person. And
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
getting good at getting the right people in here, because you feel that when you get the right people, you're like, oh, she's great or he's great, and that's fun.
When yeah, so hiring for me has been really challenging because I am in general, you might not believe this looking at me, but I am a I will always give people the benefit of the doubt. So you have to prove me wrong before I you don't have to convince me that you're a good person. I enter into every exchange assuming that everyone is as genuine as me. So hiring has been very challenging for me.
Yeah,
Um, we've had a couple coaches come through the business and just weren't a good fit. Great people, but just not a good fit at all. And that was for me, that was one of the largest growing pains as well. Um, I'm so grateful for our 5 coaches, and our goal for over the next couple of years is to grow to in the 5-year mark. We'd like to have 10 American coaches, which would put us at about 13 total coaches.
awesome.
A big driver for us is our immigration status. So, in order to elevate our immigration status, we need a larger corporation, um, which I'm totally on board with. But for me, I started off this business like, I just want to be a guy who coaches people. And then you start building and you start serving and you start growing, and the business kind of changes. For you guys, it started as, you know, 2 guys in a garage, and then it grew to a point where you were acquired by a larger company in an ownership stake. Can you take me through like what that process was like for you guys?
Yeah, we were at a like I mean, logistically, what happens? We're at a conference. This is our go to market. It was like we'd be at these football conferences, football coaching conferences, and
Okay.
Jay Crookston, Ben Crookston co-founded the company with me, and his dad was working with us at the time. He had left his like big time corporate job. He's like, I want to do this with you guys. We're like, what? All right, cool, let's do it.
Okay.
So he taught us kind of everything that we knew at that time about like sales and go to market. And guy's brilliant. He's the best. And we're at this conference, and Jay's like, you know why people are here? And I'm like, yeah, to learn about football. And he's like, no, they're here to get away from their families and drink beer. He's like, that's what I've observed, and that's what they're like telling me. And so we're like, all right, let's dance with that. So Jay got a suite in the hotel and put up signs all around the hotel that was like free beer or free keg and whatever suite, free keg and demo of Train Heroic in suite 231, right? Anyways, so a bunch of coaches came in there just like drinking beer, and we're demoing this new thing, this new tech. Again, this is like 2010 or 2000 or 2012 probably.
Okay.
And these coaches like eyes like lit up. They're like, "Holy cow, this is so cool!" And one of the guys in the room had been trying to build this technology with a group called Training Peaks out of Colorado. And anyways, he linked us up with the chairman of Training Peaks. Long story short is he ended up investing in TrainHeroic, bringing us to Boulder, Colorado. So that's when we moved our company from Chicago to Boulder. They wanted to take our strength training tech and actually bolt it on to Training Peaks. And so that was like logistically how it all happened. When I say luck, like there you go, and it was like right time, right place. We had gotten to the point where we were like, we raised, some money, and I think it was like $500,000 or something when we had started. And that money was like, that money goes quick, right? You're building this tech, you're paying developers. And like, we were getting to the point where it's like, hey, if we wanted to do this thing for real, we needed to raise some serious money. And so that gave us the avenue to do it. And frankly, actually at the time we accepted the deal, we had another deal on the table for, it was twice the deal, right? It like doubled the valuation of the company. But it wasn't with the right people, and it was just money. When we looked at the deal that we ended up taking, we're like, with these people, we think we can do the thing for our customers, and we think we can actually execute and make this happen. The other was just like money, and not that that wasn't good, but we just didn't see the path to getting to where we wanted to go. So we got out to Colorado, and that's kind of when things started moving. Like when we got here and we had, we were flush with cash, we could start growing the team and recruiting and things like that. So that's like, we kind of had two lives. That first one was just like, let's just prove that there's demand for this and it can work. The second one was like, hey, let's actually build this thing for real and do it the right way.
Was it tough for you giving up an ownership stake?
No, again, I think I just like was kind of dumb. I was just like, I knew the mission. The mission was like, we want to do this thing. Let's do it. And I just kind of always believed that there's going to be enough in it for everybody to make it worthwhile. And also, Paul, like, and this is something that like, I just don't give a shit about the money, really. Like that wasn't the thing. Like for me, it wasn't like I was doing this to get rich. I was doing this to do cool shit with cool people. And I was doing that, and I was learning stuff, and I still am. Like I'm around so many bright people where it's like you're just learning stuff all the time, and it's challenging, and you just feel like you're in the right place. So
That growth mindset to me is so undervalued because people look at it as, oh man, I'm giving up an ownership stake in the company that I founded. It's like, yeah, you're going to have a smaller piece of the pie, but that pie is 10 times the size of the pie that you just had before. So the other thing with the growth mindset is if you're so protective and focused on, the scarcity of I can't give it up, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities. People will be less likely to reach out to you. Your ability to actually grow is going to be seriously limited. But by being open to those opportunities and being able to be open to that collaboration, you're like, there is no ceiling to what you can achieve.
we would have this thing would have never happened without those guys, like without the leadership from Training Peaks. Andy was the investor, like without any of that stuff, like no question, like there was no path.
Was that an emotional decision for you? Like, did you sit with it, or was it like a yes right away?
Oh, it was a no-brainer.
No brainer.
Yeah, like we moved. So Ben and I lived together. I lived in Ben's laundry room. Okay, $400 a month. He had this 3 flat in Chicago, and we were doing it was the best. It was the best. It was like we had this ping pong table. We'd sit at the ping pong table. It was this one big room basically, and then bedrooms and a kitchen. And we'd do the thing every day. And again, like we were like, yo, there's something here. You could see it, right? And just looking at the way customers were using it, the product was shit. But it was just so early, and we knew we needed to carry on. And so when we got this, it was like it was like, no, of course we're going. And Andy was like, we'd love to have you guys in Colorado to work alongside Training Peaks to do this. I think like the next month we were in Colorado. We're like, all right, bye. And we had this going away party and did the thing.
So, okay, the way you describe that has me believing that you guys were like eating tuna 6 times a day and like living on.
I cashed out my 401k. Like we were paying ourselves like nothing. You know, I
So
cashed out.
you were legit broke.
Was like not broke. I was fine. I was totally. I'd been more poor in my life before that, but like we were fine. You know, we weren't like Ben and I like we were going to Trader Joe's and buying
Okay.
groceries and cooking. Yeah, it wasn't like that. The living in the laundry room is a real thing. But I had moved from my parents' house in the suburbs because I was just taking a commute to go to the city every day to work with Ben.
Right.
And it was like 2 hours of your day. So I was like, I should just live here. And the rooms were full, so he just kind of got his roommates to give the thumbs up for me to live in the laundry room, and so we just did it. And it was a great laundry room.
That's jokes, man. That's so funny. But I love the story. Like it's like purely passion driven. You're so excited about it. That excitement seems to have only been amplified as the business has grown. Do you see yourself ever moving away? Like just stepping away completely?
Yeah, like when I'm not having fun here anymore, I'll be gone. You know,
Mm.
there's so many people that again, like there's so many people in my life that I want to spend time with, that if I wasn't like more full seeing them from what I was doing here, I'd just be like, okay, guys, like it's just time, and I'll assess that all the time. But like I'm having fun, and I've been having fun, and it's also just looked very different, Paul. Like my life has never been the same in any given year here. It's
Mhm.
always been different. Like typically, like you sign up for a trial of TrainHeroic, you get Josh on the phone, right? You're going to get a text message and a call from me, and then we're going to set up a call and we're going to do this. And then when your business is going through some changes, like I'm going to help you, and Josh is your guy. Those were like the early days. And then as we grew, it was different. Okay, now I'm more into management thing, and I'm trying to architect a life where I'm like on the road more. I'm at shows more. I'm meeting with customers more, and the team here is doing their thing. And so it's just always been a different job, kind of, even though
Mhm.
it's been the same vision, similar mission, same company.
That's exciting though. Like the dynamic nature of it. I mean, I can look to my own career. It's like
Totally.
it's always changing, always moving. I mean, literally moving because we moved to a different country. Um, when you're truly driven by the mission, everything is exciting and you never really get bored. But there is a thought of like, what's the end game? Um, for someone like you, like I might speak out of turn, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But for someone in your position, you sell your ownership stake, you ride off into the sunset. For me, a coaching business isn't necessarily sellable. So then what do I do? How do I make sure maybe master athletic performance dies with me, right? Louis Simmons said, when I die, Westside Barbell dies. Well, he was wrong because Westside's still around, it's still doing its thing. Um, do you think Train Heroic will exist when you're gone?
Yeah, for sure. Because they don't need me at this point. Like I could get hit by a bus on the way home,
Mhm.
and our customers are going to be in a good place, and that feels good. Because otherwise it's like when you go and you're on paternity leave or whatever, it's like your customers suffer and struggle, and that's just a reality, I think, for most of us in business. But at this point, that's not the case. Truly, like Train Heroic doesn't need Josh Sutchar. That's for certain.
What's your advice for a coach whose heart's in the right place? They want to grow, they want to build something. How did you continue to stay motivated when maybe the chips were against you or, when things were tough?
Leaning on other people for sure. Just making, like, for me, and a team doesn't necessarily mean like they have to own your company, but just having people you can go to that have been there, that have done that can tell you like, yo, you're not alone. Like I've seen this before. Here's the move. But then also like just reassessing. Like the reality is like don't just like beat your head into the wall. Like if the thing ain't working, just adjust the thing. And some, you got to put in enough reps and enough time to really give it its fair shake. But if you're doing that and you're just not seeing traction, or just something's not given, just reassess the plan. Like
That
if
one's
I can help you, hit me up. I'd be happy to.
that one's always been tough for me because in this, like, I'm a very stubborn person, like to a fault.
Me
So in
too.
that, I'm like, okay, have I given my best effort? And because my mindset's always focused on progress, it's like, well, no, I could try harder, or I could do more. So and there have been a lot of times in the business where I was like, yo, this isn't a time to do more. This is a time to pivot. Can you point to a time where, maybe you could share your experience on when you're like, okay, I need to stop beating my head against the wall and I need to pivot now as opposed to just trying to push through it?
Yeah, we had this kind of aha moment where you had a set of customers in tech. We sent something out called an NPS, a Net Promoter Score. People tell the question you ask is like, how likely are you to refer TrainHeroic to a friend? And it's a you end up with a score. And when you segment that list in different ways, right? You may be like, oh, people from Canada love us, but people from Alabama hate us. Why? And so when you segment the list, what we found is that our customers that were in facility only, okay, so your high school strength coaches, that their job was to take 100 kids through a session that were using your tech. They had a significantly lower NPS score than people who were doing training remotely or a hybrid of the two. I'm in person and remote. People that were using our iPad app we used to have an iPad app where you see this like big list of athletes, you select who were there, and then you'd see their training, and it was smooth for in facility. But it wasn't perfect, and we didn't have a team big enough to service that and keep progressing the mobile app at the speed that it needed to. So our MPS told us that like, hey, this in facility thing, it ain't going as well as we want it to, and these people aren't that happy, and they aren't telling their friends about it. These other people are stoked. So let's double down. Let's double down there. And we do want to serve in facility and remote, but right now we're doing the remote thing so well. We can do it even better if we just pivot away from this. And that was one pivot that we made. And it was tough to do because you've made commitments to customers.
How much of your iteration, we talked about that agile development where you launch, iterate, and that's all based on feedback. So you guys must be asking for feedback from your customers all the time.
Yeah, and when you get a bunch of them, like you can start hearing like, okay, you can sort through things like, is that just noise? Is that a signal? Right? You can start putting things in buckets and whatnot. People will give us it whether we're asking for it or not, but that's like a fundamental, like that's built into our process. Is ask, how's it going? Even if I'm solving your problem, like what else is going on?
So the reason I wanted you to say that is because this is a big gripe that I have with a lot of coaches that are growing their businesses or trying to, is they don't ask their clients for feedback. Not only that, is they don't notice when feedback is given unsolicited. So they're kind of coasting through just coaching their clients. But that client who reaches out and says, "Hey man, you changed my life, blah blah blah." They just say, "Oh cool, happy to be along with the process." So they say something genuine, right? But what I get my mentees to do is every one of those unsolicited, I call them unsolicited testimonials. Screenshot them, save them to an album, keep them on your phone. You're going to revisit those, especially on the days where you feel like you're doing a shit job. You're going to revisit those testimonials. But that's also feedback on what you can be doing more of. The next is periodically sending your clients feedback questionnaires to ask how you can improve your services, because you're going to beat your head against a wall trying to predict what the market wants from you when your ideal client, you probably have, like if you have a full coaching roster, you have between 30 to 60 people who are your ideal client. So if you want more of those people, why not just ask those people what they want? And it seems stupid simple, but it's a step that people miss. And for Train Heroic, it seems like it was a pivotal process change to allow you guys to continue to grow.
Totally. And that Paul is like that example is like a very generic one or like a way more maybe obvious approach. We're like, what's different about these two people? Oh, they're training in a facility. These people are training remote. Like we recently did this thing where we mapped our happiest customers in a specific
Okay.
segment, and we looked at all their characteristics, their criteria. What are they doing? What are they not doing? What are their behaviors? And then we try to pattern match to be like, oh, those are the people that we need to get. And this is specific. We have this group called power sellers, which are like big time online influencers that we think can just run a business online. We think we have the best economics and the best experience, but they don't necessarily they're not thinking about us. We'll go and outbound, go call them or whatever, right? And what we found is like some people were making, I'm making up numbers here, but some people were making like 100 grand a month, and some people were making like $100 a month, and they kind of look the same on paper. We thought,
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild.
it's wild. But when you get into the nuance, you're like, okay, how many, like, what are all these people doing? We were able to boil down like the four things that matter. And it's like, if those four things don't exist, we can't, like with 93% accuracy, we can tell you how, like that they're going to hit a certain threshold. just knowing that criteria. And again, I'm sure there's more criteria. Like, okay, what fails within that, and then like, what are the additional layers that we need to pull out? So my point here is just like, by doing something like that, if you map your happiest customers, you're like, who are the happiest customers? Not just people that are telling me, but people that are paying me for a long, long time. What do they like? What do they look like? Are they men? Are they women? What's their age? Where do they live? How do they train? What are they training for? What's their income level? Like, I don't know all those specific details, but I feel like once you can do that, that's your ICP. And like, just go find more of those people, because the other people, the 25-year-old that's not doing their training, that's like giving you a headache, like you might get more clients, but if there are a bunch of those people, like now you're just unhappy and you're kicking the dog. And so
And this is something that like Liv and I have been doing over the last 6 months. We're working with a brand strategist for this exact purpose,
yeah,
because we want to better understand who our ideal customer is, and we want to make sure that everything we do is geared towards that person. And this is something that we've had to spend thousands of dollars to do, because our business has grown to the point where we require that outsourcing. But this is something that you as a small business owner can start right away for free, and it'll set you up for the future, like in a massive way. Um, I was recently asked on a podcast, right, actually, literally right before I hopped on with you, I was asked this question. I thought it would be a great one for you. One thing that I've noticed in our business is at certain levels of growth, different things have broken. So when we got, when it was just me and I got into the six figures, something broke. And then when it was Liv and I, and we got to that next threshold, something broke. Then when we got to 500,000 gross, something broke. What have been some of the, like, have you noticed that same trend with you guys in that like each level of growth leads to something breaking or something needing to be changed?
yeah, every like there's a different challenge, right? Based on like going from like two people where everything is easy, with two people, and you get to like five. You're like, okay, you have new challenges. Now you can move faster for your customers, but whatever. And so I think like at this stage that we're at, it's actually the internal communication that I find to be the problem
Okay.
that I want to solve the most. So for example, you go to a conference, back when it was like Ben and Josh at the conference, both of us had all the context, all the understanding, like we were on the same page. I'm going to learn some things there that like I need to figure out how to effectively communicate to the whole team, because everybody's busy. They're not going to read your like, your big write up. So it's like, how do you deliver those messages? How do you communicate things that, Paul needs this, and this is the pain and friction that he has in his life because of something we're doing or not doing, to the people that matter, from like leadership to product to marketing, so we can start telling that story. So as you get big, I've at least right now find that to be the one thing that I haven't, one of the many things, but one thing I haven't cracked the code on that I'm wanting to.
What are you most excited about moving forward in the future for Train Heroic?
Oh my gosh. I have a vision for this thing and what we can do for people. And I'm most excited to start seeing that in reality. I think like, and I'm talking like from a product and technology standpoint, there's just so many things I want to do for our coaches. And I'm like, we're going to do it. It's just going to take time and energy and effort and, a little bit of luck to get it done. But like, I'm most excited to just see that in action.
What are you most excited about for yourself?
This third kid coming, man.
That's gotta be really something.
Yeah, it'll be wild. I'm like bracing for impact. One is really hard. Nobody really got me understanding how tough that would be. Two has been way harder than one, in terms of like, you're doing a group project with your partner, and now it's like, all right, now we're each doing our own thing, which has its own challenges, right? It's like, yeah. And then three is just like, I'm like, how do people do that? So yeah, I'm
Well, you're
fired up
about to
for it.
figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right, let's get a quick hit question in here. You're in the gym training. You're going for a PR. What's your song?
I like slow stuff, man. And I think I can't say R. Kelly anymore. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't.
yeah. Uh, you know, I don't have a great one. I can go to the playlist. I'm old school '90s hip hop, Talib Kweli, that
Okay,
kind of stuff. I like J. Cole. So
I can get behind that.
yeah.
I can get behind that.
Otherwise, it's like slow. Before football games, I would have like just some slow, chill out music.
Like baby making music?
Baby making music. Yeah, he's like, I'll get like I'll get there, but like let me just relax right now.
What's a special skill that you have that not many people know about?
I don't have many, man. I like boxing.
Really?
Yeah,
You do like to hit people, eh?
yeah. I was a fullback. I like contact. I love boxing. I wouldn't say I'm like very skilled. Like if somebody picked a fight with me, I'd probably lose. But yeah, I enjoy it.
If there was a billboard on the side of the highway for everyone to read, you could put anything on that billboard, what would it be?
It's a be your best. It's a slogan that we have here, but like that means something different to everybody, and I find it pretty powerful.
I love that. Josh, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. You're a fucking cool dude, man.
Right back at you, Paul. I'm so glad we bumped into each other. I'm sure I hope I'll at least see you at Summer Strong. But where are you headed next? When are we going to bump into each other?
I'm planning some stuff. I want to go to the NSCA conference in July.
Nice.
That's on my list. We have some family coming to visit. My dad wants to come to visit, so I just need him to nail down those dates, and then I'll book that out. But then I'll be in. I'm actually traveling a little bit. I'm going to NPC Junior Nationals this weekend. Then I'm going to be in Chicago for a powerlifting meet this weekend too, and then I'll be in Atlanta for USA Powerlifting next weekend.
And you're always
So
you're going as a coach in those ways.
going as a coach, yeah. I haven't been able to attend many conferences because traveling from Canada has been so cost prohibitive. I was telling someone the other day to fly from Ottawa to Toronto is like a 45-minute flight, cost me $600. Whereas I'm flying first class from Charlotte to Tennessee, or sorry, from Charlotte to Chicago. It's like $200.
Yeah.
Well, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be out as much as I can. So if you're ever planning on going anywhere, definitely want to link up.
Yeah. Hit me if you're going to the shows. Like we have the NSCA National on our list. I won't go because it's just too close
To the due
to the
date.
due date. But our team will be there. There'll be
Okay.
a couple of us there. But yeah, Paul, that'd be awesome. And then when's your show?
The 23rd of August.
Of August 23rd. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll be in touch, man. I appreciate you. Where can everyone find you?
I've got like 25 followers on Instagram. So if you want to be number 26, it's TrainHeroic Josh on Instagram, but www.trainheroic.com. If you message me, if you guys need me, Josh at trainheroic.com is my direct. So
That's great, man. Thank you so much. Everyone, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one.
awesome. Thanks, Paul.